I see Rivky's here.
Yeah.
Devorah, Chanie, everyone here?
I think so.
Okay, great. Okay, and Rivky, Sarala, are you here, Sarala?
Yeah, hi.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so Baruch Hashem, we have participants here with us already. We're about to get started. And welcome to Real Talk, everyone. I just want to give a little introduction why we are doing today's panel and panels in general that we're doing lately. JW, Jewish Women Influencers, is here to give a platform to role models, to real role models in our community. And whenever we see the need for a conversation about something, we ask women leaders in our community to come out and speak to us about it, to give us some guidance and support. And as we know, lately, there's been a lot of unsettling feelings, a lot of disquiet. And we felt that the woman, as the mainstay of the home, should really be able to feel very calm and very centered in order to lead her family. And the thing is that when we ask these women to do these panels for us, many times it's not easy for them. These women are very busy. Baruch Hashem, they have large growing families and they're working and they have their projects. These women don't like to be in the limelight. And these women don't feel like they're necessarily an authority on certain topics. But when we explain to the ladies that there are women out there who are looking for guidance, looking for support, so these are the women that really care. And they put everything aside and they find the time and they put themselves aside and they come out to share with us. So thank you so much to our panelists for agreeing to be here with us tonight. And for giving us some inspiration. I do want to talk a little bit about the topic of feminine leadership. We're saying that the woman is the mainstay of the home. What she thinks, what she feels, what she says affects her brothers, her father, her husband, her children. And actually, when we think about this, isn't traditionally the man the leader of the home? We're saying the woman is the mainstay of the home. And when we're getting on this topic of feminine leadership, since you are women leaders, can you explain to us how we understand this feminine leadership idea? Are we the leaders or are we the assistants to the men who are the leaders? Like, why is it so important that we have our act together, that we're in a good place for everybody else, our families, our nation, the world to be in a good place? So, Chanie Wolf, can you give us some inspiration, some guidance on that, what it means feminine leadership today?
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Zohar. It's a privilege to be here. I'm listening to you talk about feminine leadership, and I think that there are two kinds of leadership. There's power and there's influence. Power is external, right? It's currently you're in a position to tell people what to do, and like it or not, they need to listen. They may or may not listen, but even if they do, that doesn't guarantee they've actually been changed or impacted in any kind of internal or real way. And then you have influence. Influence is internal, it's deeper, and it's lasting. And what's interesting about influence is often you don't even notice. We're talking about Jewish women influencers. You don't even notice often the influencer. You don't notice who it is. It's not like they're in the limelight and it's about them and their power. It's simply that something they did caused someone to be impacted in a lasting and real way. And I think this is the ultimate understanding of what it means to be a woman, to be a Jewish woman. And this is the kind of influence we have in our homes. And I like to think of it as how do we influence husbands, children, anyone around us? I think is primarily the mood, the attitude. Sometimes you can't even figure out how to pinpoint what it is, but someone's energy is very, very powerful. And perhaps the greatest expression of that is, what does a woman care about? What does she value? What is she passionate about? What does she want? What makes her happy? And everyone around this woman, the Akeres Bayis, her husband, her children, the guests, and her community, anyone that she influences, anyone she encounters, picks up on what does this woman really appreciate. And it comes across in the way she talks, in how she reacts to situations, to individuals. what she prioritizes, what she's passionate about. How, when you want to make her happy, what do you do to make her happy, right? What gives her nachas? And it seems so subtle and so gentle and so behind the scenes, but that feedback, that encouragement, that joy, her being simply in a happy mood versus, we're right now in a very stressful time, whether she is stressed out or she is content and joyful, has such a huge impact on the family. I'm sure, any mother of young children knows that as soon as if you need to leave the house and there's a little baby and it's like really urgent that you get out in time, like specifically at that moment, the baby won't cooperate and will just be really, really on edge and won't go to sleep. And it's a fascinating thing because everyone picks up on the energy of the woman in the home. And if she's content with who she is and the life she's leading and at peace, joyful, prioritizing the right things, everyone around her really picks up on that. And the influence is greater than I think any external, powerful leadership could ever be.
Wow. Chanie, that reminds me of what we spoke about before the panel when we were preparing for this. For weeks, Baruch Hashem, we've been doing intensive preparations. And it reminds me, like when you were wondering, why are we doing this panel? And I told you because the women need chizuk, the women, and you were like, wow, okay, if the women need, inspiration to lead their homes peacefully, I'm with you, so I think that's what you were just saying. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. And for being here, all of you. Rivky Levy. Is Rivky on? Not seeing her.
Yeah, she just needs to unmute.
Unmute. Okay. We're talking about feminine leadership and what that means to be a feminine leader.
Okay. I just want to say one thing. Is Devorah on? Because she's writing that she's on and off on the group. So if you want to just.
We're working on getting her back on.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay. So men and women lead differently. The Rebbe says that there's an advantage to a woman leading the home. The men were given the mitzvah of Chinuch, but ultimately, practically, it's the woman who's running the home because she's home most of the time with the children. And the Rebbe says that men are leading the home with awe and respect. When it comes to a woman, she is running the home from a place of love and compassion and nurturing. And the Rebbe says there's a big advantage to the leadership of a woman in the home, especially in recent generations. The Rebbe says that experience shows that is how a child needs to be dealt with love and affection and closeness, and that will reach the children and give them a sense of peace and tranquility and joy in their life. We are the Akaris Bayis. Akaris Bayis, the word ikar comes from Akaris Bayis, and that's the focus. We are the focus of the home. We are the neck of the home. Our spouse and our children are the heads. Wherever we're going to turn, they're going to turn. Whatever excites us, whatever we focus on, that's where they're going to turn. So we want to really look at our value system and ask ourselves, are we happy with where the neck is going? What the values are? What are we bringing into the home? Are we bringing in anxiety and worry and fear? Are we bringing in love and peace and tranquility? And it's not always easy to do that. So we want to make sure we're taking care of ourselves, especially right before the kids come home. Take some time, do one less errand, sit on the couch for a minute, talk something over with a friend. If something's bothering you, you want to have a home that has a happy, peaceful atmosphere, and whatever it needs to happen before the kids walk through the door, we want to make sure we're taking care of that.
Wow, I really like that, Rivky. You said that once and I use that till today. Do one less errand before the kids come home. I really like that, be calm so you can lead. And I also think it's interesting how you say that lead with affection. So you're not just giving love and letting the kids lead. You're the leader, but you're doing it with love. So I thought that was very interesting. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Sarala, feminine leadership.
Hi.
So
if there's feminine leadership, what comes to mind, that means there must be masculine leadership. And you want to be comparing what's the difference between feminine leadership and masculine. So it's not really so much men and women as much as a feminine model and a masculine model. And the masculine model brings to mind, like the way it was in the olden days, medieval times, kings conquering. The male model of leadership is you listen to me because I'm forcing you, because I'm bigger than you, because I'm stronger than you, because I can win over you, and I'm going to control you. The feminine model of leadership is more grassroots, is more gentle. In modern day work talk, some people refer to as, there's hard skills, the skills of any job that you're in, and then there's soft skills is the ability to communicate in a workforce, or the ability to communicate in a collaborative way. And I think that's what we're after, that feminine model of the collaboration. I work with high school girls, I work in camp, and there's a very big difference between when I, as a director, come and just say, this is what we're doing, versus when we have teamwork, when we brainstorm together. So similar to what Chanie and Rivky were saying, feminine leadership brings to mind this, like, I'm not coming in controlling and dictating as much as I'm getting you to want it. I'm getting you to be excited about it. I'm doing it in a way where you don't even realize that I'm leading. And this doesn't come naturally to everybody. I know that for me, it's actually a work in progress. I'd rather come and just say, it's much harder for me to be gentle and soft. And that's why it's helpful for me to learn about it and hear other women speak about it, because I could make the mistake that feminine means not leading, being timid or whatever. It's so helpful for me to learn, no, there's leadership. We're leading, but we're not leading in a conquering way. We're leading in a feminine way. We're learning soft skills. We're learning interpersonal skills. We're doing it in a way where people could really internalize it. So I just want to end off with that idea. Yeah, I remember hearing the pasuk called Kuda Bas Melech Panima many times. The honor of a princess is, inner, and we always hear about tznius, but I read an explanation on it that really blew my mind. The Rebbe said, called Kuda, when you speak to people with respect, rather than coming down at them, when you speak in a feminine way, Panima, they're then able to internalize things. And that's the model that, I work on and I want to internalize, and what I strive to be like as a woman, to lead in a feminine way.
Beautiful. Are you maybe also suggesting that men can lead in a feminine way? Is that a possibility?
I absolutely think that as we come towards Mashiach, the whole world is recognizing that the feminine way is more effective. And I think, collaborative workplaces are becoming much more popular. I actually do think that energy of wanting to do things in more of a feminine way is a sign of Mashiach.
Okay.
I am suggesting that. I do think that people are recognizing it. Now, obviously, in a marriage dynamic or in a relationship, there still has to be the mashpia and the makabel, and there needs to be that balance of masculine and feminine. But overall, in the world, I do believe there's a shift. There's a shift towards feminine energy.
Okay, wonderful. Is Devorah back with us, Rachel Chana?
Yes, she's on.
Okay, great. So Devorah, we're talking about feminine leadership. This is the intro to today's session, which is how can we bring peace and tranquility into our homes? We're saying that it's our responsibility as women to center ourselves so that everybody around us, in our homes, in our community, in the world can be centered and relaxed. And we're saying as feminine leaders, how does that play out to be feminine and a leader? And Devorah, take it away. Is Devorah here?
Zohar, should I jump in with the story until we get her back on?
1 second. Rachel Chana, what do you say?
She's on. She's right here.
Oh, we got her. Okay, great.
Okay. Thank you.
Hold on here. We just can't hear her for some reason.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Very low.
Very low?
Yeah.
Now?
A little low.
I don't know. I'm having a lot of luck tonight.
It must be very important what you need to say.
Okay. My volume's on the highest. Do you hear anything?
Can everybody else hear her?
She's quiet. If you're connected to headphones, then try to disconnect. It might help.
No headphones. Just my phone full capacity.
Okay. Somebody's saying in the chat box they can hear you.
They can hear me. Okay, that's a good start.
But other people are saying no, they can't hear.
I can't. I don't know why I'm not having any luck here. I tried on laptop, iPad, and phone. I'm not sure what else to try.
We can hear you faintly.
Right. I don't know why. Very strange.
Okay. Okay. And somebody's saying maybe if you close your phone and open it again.
Okay. I'll sign off and I'll try back on.
Okay. Okay. So Sarla, you had a quick story for us?
Yeah, I remember reading once from Sarah Carmelli. She went by the Rebbe and she was already involved with doing certain community outreach projects for the Rebbe. And the Rebbe gave her $3. The Rebbe gave her one for herself, one for you, one for her activities. And then the Rebbe gave her a $3 and said something very interesting. I read it in one of her books. The Rebbe said, $3 so your husband won't be angry at me.
Wow.
And it hit her like a ton of bricks. Like, whoa, am I so active? Am I such a leader that I'm stepping on someone's toes? Is it possible that maybe the Rebbe is hinting something to me, telling me something? And to me, it was also like holding a mirror to myself. It was very eye-opening. Am I leading in a way that's stepping on people's toes? Am I stepping into whether it's stepping into the role of the husband, stepping into the masculine space rather than being in the feminine space? Or like Rivky was saying about being calm and that tranquility, which is the opposite of the anger. So when you talk about feminine leadership, I think of that story and I'm like, that's the goal. We're not always there. That's the image, of that peaceful, calm, gentle, rather than forceful.
Okay. And we'll wait for Devorah to come back on. But meanwhile, we'll go on because the next question is very related. You're all leaders in different fields. And
Devorah's here.
Devorah's here? Oh, yay. Everything work out with the volume now, Devorah?
She's muted. She needs to be unmuted.
Okay.
All right. Can you hear me?
Okay. Amazing. We can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, good. Thank God. Okay.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, Devorah.
Hi.
Okay, so I'll just repeat the question for you.
Yeah.
So you're here for the first question. Okay. So we're talking about feminine leadership, right? And how does that go together? Isn't that a contradiction in terms? What can you tell us about being a feminine type of a leader?
Right. Okay. So, I don't actually think that they're a contradiction. I see femininity by nature being a powerful and empowering type of personality and characteristic by nature. I think that it's our femininity that's our quiet and gentle strength that anchors everybody around us. And I think specifically in today's times, where society is very much about women being up in the ranks and proving themselves and, securing positions and high status and proving it, because only then that's when you're considered powerful. And it's done in, you're pushed to do it in whatever means it may be, whether it's loud or provocative or whatever it is. And obviously I'm not talking about someone's natural personality trait if they're louder. I'm talking about more like push to get to the top, rise in the ladder. But I do feel like it's actually the contrary. I feel like, yes, we have our rights and we have our opinions, and I have my rights and my beliefs, and I do want to be something and I want to, make a mark, to a degree. But I feel like the way to do that is really to just tap into my inner self. Like if I just go deep inside and realize I have that within me, I have these abilities, I'm able to empower and to be a leader just by who I am, by instinct. I don't need to be loud. I don't need to be visible to be a leader and to be powerful. I need to tap into myself, and it's like the little day-to-day actions that are very gentle, but those are the femininity, the sides of femininity of myself, that little actions day to day that are gentle, but firm and safe and still loving, create a safe and loving atmosphere for everyone around us, so that, whether it's our families or people that we encounter, that they feel nurtured to keep growing and to be empowered to be their best selves. So I don't see it as a contradiction. I think it's our natural instincts if we allow it.
So that's beautiful. So femininity is strength. Being feminine is enough, is powerful enough.
Right. We don't have to prove to be something that we're not. We just really have to be who we are. And that is power. That's going to be powerful.
The first time I heard this phrase of quiet strength, it struck me. I heard it. They made a song about the Rebbetzin for Chav B'Shvat, and they made it in Hebrew. And they said, Sheket imotzma, quiet strength. And it was the first time I heard those two words together, quiet strength. I said, wow, that's such a perfect term, wow, Devorah, while we have you already on, we're going to go to the next question. And we're saying you're all, leading in different fields, and your followers on social media, there's something about your page that's very meaningful. And I'm just wondering, what is your message? What are you trying to get across on social media? You're kind of a private person as far as I know you. Like, why are you on there? What are you trying to get across? What's your message?
That's a fun question. So, I actually am a more private person. I do have a social media page, so it's hard, sometimes, it seems like I'm more out there just because of that. But it still is, I still am more private by nature. I initially got started really by the request of other people. So, I always loved getting dressed, even from a young age. I was very into putting together my looks and, doing all that. But not just the fun part of it, but also I really believe that whatever I dressed, my clothing was also a message of what I believe in, who I am, where I come from, why I do what I do. I always felt like it's all connected. I didn't feel like this is this, that is that, it's all one unit. It's who I am. As I got older, kind of was given this reputation for my sense of style, and people would often ask me to start a page and post my outfits, and they loved it. And they, every time they see me, it's so exciting. So it gives them inspiration, and they would love to see me post the outfits. So I wasn't really, taking into it at first because it sounded fun, but it's out there. But after a few people asked, I decided to do it. I realized that it would be, I guess, useful. It would be helpful for others. And since then, I've received multiple messages about how, people telling me personally, I really love to see your fashionable outfits, but also that they're modest. And after hearing that, I realized what I'm doing has a purpose, because I did think of, maybe I'll just stop posting my outfits. Like, it feels like on display a little too much. Maybe it's a little overkill, but I realized that it has a purpose, and it's doing something. And the truth is, for me, modesty it's not just about covering my elbows, my knees, my collarbones. It's really how I live. It's how I think, how I make my choices. It's a way of life. So it's who I am. It embodies me literally and physically and spiritually. So I'm not a master at it. I have to be honest. It's something that I definitely strive towards, and it's a lifestyle and a way of life that I strive towards. And I know that it enhances and enriches my life so much. And that's why I care about it so much, and I love it. And it's not a burden because of that. It was never a burden for me, because I've always appreciated what it offers, what it has offered my life, and what it offers to others, I guess. So I hope I could keep being that source of inspiration and for others as well.
Well, you just got another follower. They're asking for your Instagram handle. Actually, Amanda just posted it for us. Thank you, Amanda Spiro. Okay, so Rivky, Rivky Levy. Kanai Nahara, you talk so much and gives people so much chizuk with your bitachon classes. And I remember when it started, and it seemed like you were picking up on the vibes that people were feeling anxious, you know, even before all this current events going on. And you just said, I have to do something about it. You started making videos, then you started making Tuesday morning classes in person, monthly Zooms. Can you tell us what you do by the bitachon classes and what you teach about and the feedback?
Okay, so it actually started with my own anxiety. Many years ago, I experienced a very big challenge in my life and I was hitting the wall. I didn't know what to do. And a friend suggested I read the book In Good Hands. It's 100 Letters from the Rebbe on Emunah. And it has become my lifeline. It sits on my night table and I just read it. And it just makes me feel so, just a sense of calm and peace that Hashem is running the world. And this summer, you know, it's always a more quiet time. I decided in one of the letters, many of the letters, the Rebbe said that you should learn Chayvus Avavais Shar B'Tachan, and it will help you strengthen your emunah and give you more peace. So I decided in the summer that I was gonna learn Chayvus Avavais. I mentioned it to a friend. We were in the bungalow colony, and she's like, "Oh, I'd love to join." And I said, "You know what? Let's open it up for everybody." And every day before swimming, 11 o'clock. We sat on the porch and we read Chavos Avavos and we learned it and we learned In Good Hands. And, you know, everybody was going through different challenges. And one by one, the women were saying that it was just, you know, one woman said, "Oh, it's getting in my bones. Like I'm feeling like I'm really becoming stronger." And everybody was going through different challenges in their life. And they felt that reading the letters from the Rebbe on Emunah really, really helped them. So we came back to the city after the summer. I said, "You know what? We can't just let this go." So every Tuesday we have a share.
Wow.
Children are welcome. It's a relaxed environment and many people come back. The same people come back over and over and we just go through our challenges and it's open forum. And the main thing the Rebbe is saying over and over is that Hashem runs the world. And the best way to see that is when we look in our own life and see the hashgacha pratis in our life, we can see with our own eyes that everything that Hashem is doing is exactly the way it needs to be and it's for the good. Just a simple example. Last week, I was running late to bring my baby to the babysitter and I was like getting annoyed at myself that it was taking so long. And when I finally left the house, I got to the corner and I met someone that I had been trying to get through to for so long. And I was like, now I know why I needed to be late. And we want to also imbue that in our children. You know, it's a lot of uncertainty in the world and why is this happening and why is that happening? And when we teach our children that everything that happens is hashgacha pratis, and when they can look in their own life, it gives them peace and tranquility. Just a small example, my son recently had his birthday, he's 11, and he says, "Ma," he comes home from school, he says, "Ma, let me tell you, I brought donuts to school, and 2 of the donuts all the frosting came off from the side of the box when I was carrying it. You know, this is 11-year-old problems." He says, "I didn't know what to do. Like which kid am I going to give the one without the frosting?" And then he says, "Ma, it was hashgacha pratis because 2 kids didn't come to school. So I didn't have to worry." And that's really what it comes down to when we can show them that everything that's happening, and we ask Hashem to show in a revealed way, but everything that's happening is exactly the way it needs to be. And I'm just going to share one letter from the Rebbe that we read at our share today. And the Rebbe says, "If Hashem is capable of running the world with billions of people, do you really think he needs your worry?" And the Rebbe says, you have 2 options. Either you could spend your whole day worrying, and then you're going to have a new worry. Why did I worry so much? Everything worked out. Or you could trust in Hashem, that Hashem runs the world, and that every single second is exactly the way it needs to be. And then you'll have peace and tranquility.
Excellent. And somebody's asking where this year is.
It's in my house.
628 Empire.
628 Empire between Kingston and Albany. 11 o'clock. Children are welcome. Coffee, cake. Enjoy.
Wow. Sounds great. I want to just say, Rivky, that you're talking about training the kids to see the good. I think that's so beautiful. And also calming yourself down, your friends down. What we're going to get to later in the program is what if there's like real threat, not like inner threat or like outside threat, like, like things that we're dealing with right now, anti-Semitism and people being lo aleinu. And how do you have bitachon then? What are you supposed to do? And obviously Hashem is still in control, but we're going to get to that. So I just want to put that out there. So, but thank you for that. And thank you for letting us know about these wonderful classes. So I want to go to Sarala now with this question. So Sarala, Kenai, you're doing the programming in Beis Rivka for the teenagers. You're running the day camps. You're doing Embrace alumni, wow, branches, Kenai Nahara. And you started recently doing these amazing videos, and especially since our tragic loss in our community of Yocheved Gurari, which we all still can't get over. That video that you made, empowering girls and young adults who are struggling with mental health, with depression, it really, really strikes a chord, and they put it on Chabad.org, right? And the comments, I was looking at it, the comments, people really want this kind of chizuk. Can you tell us a little bit about this video, what went into making it and what it's about?
Sure, thanks. So the truth is, it kind of came pouring out of me. I was feeling very guilty about something personally, and it was very personal to me. And somebody asked me, she's like, well, what would Hashem tell you? And that's what came out, because I realized that the guilt was coming totally from the Yetzer Hara.
Wow.
Because when he pulls us down, and it seems so good, it's so holy, like we're feeling bad about something, we should be better mothers, better people, whatever. It dysfunctions us.
Right.
And the guilt is, the wording that the Alter Rebbe uses in Chanie is biyadua shehu b'tachbulas hayetzer. It is for sure that it's a trick of the Yetzer Hara. Pulls us down. And then it's a vicious cycle downwards. So all the words, it was just like darkness, the feeling I had was like, go away. You're just a distraction, right? We are light. We are forgiven. Hashem loves us. Hashem hears about us. Hashem wants us to ask him for help. So that really was the message. And the truth is, I myself did not expect it to get the feedback that it got. I'm constantly getting feedback. And I think it's because as people, the idea that resonates with all of us is that we're all imperfect. We all struggle. So it makes us feel less alone. Oh, I'm not the only one. And to know with certainty that Hashem loves us and forgives us and we can do better, and to recognize the Yetzer Hara and the guilt and call it out for what it is. The hijacker. It's trying to hijack our brain. It's trying to derail us. And really what we want is the light. And that was the point of the video. It's like, it's time to free ourselves from the shackles of remorse. Those are the words that just came out. So that was it. It was this desire for women and girls to recognize Hashem loves us. We are good. Wow. Not we are perfect, but we are good. And to just reveal that inner core and not let our Yetzer Hara, get over us, and just focus forward on doing positive.
Right. Sarala, this really resonates for me because being a mother who has suffered loss, so one of the things that I realize is that, there's the pain of the loss, but then there's pain of guilt. And the pain of the loss you can get over as long as you're not in the cycle of the pain of guilt, because that is just like debilitating. You can never recover from that until you put that away. And now I feel it's my mission. I'm on a support group of our tapestry. Devorah Goldberg runs it, our tapestry. And there's like 200 mothers on there from different communities. And whenever I sense that a mother is feeling like guilt, I right away chime in, you have to let go of that. You're never going to heal otherwise. It's the Yetzer Hara. I mamish tell her these words. So I really, really,
the words you use, debilitating. It is.
Yeah.
And Hashem loves us. And that, Hashem avas Eilam, that was like the feeling I had. Amazing. The guilt, a trick of Yetzer Hara. It's not there to propel us forward.
Beautiful. Thank you. So Chanie, let's ask you this question. You're an assistant principal. in Beis Rivka Seminary. And we're talking about empathy. You know, Sarla was just saying, we have to realize we're not perfect. You know, we're a work in progress. But as a principle, right? So we want to try to give over Torah values, but we want to have empathy for the human condition. Like, how do we balance that? You know, like teaching, but understanding. What do you say?
It's a great question. And, you know, I love what Sarla just said. I think that really speaks directly to your question. I've noticed there is like a common misunderstanding that clearly the Alter Rebbe recognizes, and the whole Tanya seems to me centered on, which is this, this sense we have that Tehit Tzaddik, that if Hashem wants us to strive for the ultimate, that somehow we are terrible and defective if we're imperfect and not reaching that. And so, you know, about the balance between Torah values and the human condition, I think it's critical to realize, and I try to emphasize this, Torah itself is absolutely empathetic and understanding to and for the human condition. This is what Tanya is all about, is helping us realize, like, the fact that we need to grow and that there is something to strive for doesn't mean we're bad for struggling. And if Hashem wanted perfect avodah, he had malachim, he had the olamas elyonim, he had these, you know, he could have had creatures who would just be robots and do everything right. He didn't want that. He wanted human beings, and no one could really understand it. You know, the malachim didn't agree with it. No one agreed with Hashem on this, you know, what you call the human project. What are you doing? I'm like, what is man that you like him so much? They couldn't figure it out. And sometimes we can't figure it out either. Like, Hashem, why do you love me? what is it that you, you know, that you're appreciating here? And we have to realize that from Hashem's perspective, it's something totally different. I remember seeing a video where the Rebbe speaks about Mivtzayim and describes, you know, sometimes you think, I'm going to reach out to a Yid, and one time I think the example was tefillin, if I'm not mistaken, one time they'll put on tefillin, or one time they'll light Shabbos candles, whatever it is. Like, what did I accomplish? What happened? And I think we need to, you know, revert this to ourselves. It's not about others, but the way that Rebbe explains it, what don't you understand from Hashem's perspective? Even if the Yid did nothing else in that regard afterwards, Hashem forever, it's a nitzchi, it's an eternal thing. Hashem just sits there and derives this endless and eternal enjoyment. He's tzatzketzich, the Rebbe says. Hashem is like just delighting in this one mitzvah that the Yid did at that moment. So I think really try to emphasize that, yes, we need to know what the emes is. What is the truth? What is it we're striving for? Sefer Shel Beinim, the Tanya, Tehit Tzaddik. There is something Hashem wants us to work towards. But however far we are from that, that doesn't invalidate us. Of course, we are challenged. Hashem created us that way. He wanted imperfect human beings to strive towards the emes. And every time we fall, Sheva Yipel Tzaddik V'kam, when we fall, we pick ourselves up again, and we may fall 7 times. And Hashem is or more, but Hashem is deriving this incredible nachas, this incredible enjoyment from our efforts to keep picking ourselves up, from the fact that we are honestly trying. And, you know, the challenge is that often I find that it's so hard to feel imperfect. I know, you know, even for myself, it's like, you know, you want to do things right, and to feel like I did it halfway, I can't do it fully. You just feel so bad about yourself, and it's just demoralizing, and it leads us down a really bad cycle. And we need to keep getting into Hashem's mindset. Hashem's not looking for perfection. He's looking for our effort. He's looking for our trying. And there's a tendency, because of that challenge, to, you know, that's really what reform is about. There's this tendency to sense like, if I can't do it all, I need to change the definition of truth. I need to change the target, you know, like it's like the person who saw a target board, you know, with darts all, you know, with a circle perfectly around them. So he goes looking for who shot these darts, perfectly got them all into the goal. And he says, how do you do it? And the man innocently looks at him and says, what do you mean? I shoot the darts and then I draw the circle around them. Right. And I think there's a tendency to do that. Like, I want to feel good about myself. So whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm comfortable with right now, whatever I'm able to do, I'm going to decide that's the ultimate. So this must be the standard. This must be okay. And I'm going to do away with whatever I can't accomplish, which is really a cop-out and a very unfortunate way of dealing with it. When Torah is saying, no, the emes is still the emes, even if you're far from it right now. It's okay to be imperfect, but I still have to believe that that's the goal and I'm working towards that. And I want to just share one more thought, and that is that the Rebbe took on the Nasias of our generation. Yud Shvat, Tafshin Yud Aleph, the Rebbe gave a mission statement. The Rebbe said, in America, everyone has a mission statement. So here's the mission statement of Dara Shvi for the Rebbe, that there are 3 loves. And I think if we think about it, it's such a powerful message. There are 3 loves and they always have to come together. There's Avas Hashem, Avas HaTorah, and Avas Yisrael. Avas Hashem, love of Hashem, love of the Torah, love for a fellow Yid. They are interconnected. So if I love Hashem and I love the Torah, I must love another Yid. The idea that I can place Torah values somehow ahead of a Yid's feelings, like it's incongruous, it doesn't make any sense. That's not possible. If I care about Torah mitzvahs, I must, by definition, love a Yid and accept them for who they are and share that in a non-judgmental, caring way. Like that just comes together. And the same thing is in the reverse. And you can go through each one, multiple directions. But the same thing is, if I really care about another Yid, if I really love someone, then I should want to give them the greatest gift. And that is Torah. Torah's emes, the Torah of, as the Rebbe always quotes, Torah's emes, Torah's chaim, the Torah that is truth, the Torah that is life, that is the best thing for them. And I think recognizing that there is no contradiction between the greatest, highest, truest values of Torah and Avas Yisrael and empathy. They come together. And if we're not seeing how they come together, then there's something we're not understanding. And we clearly, the Torah we think we know, we don't know properly. And I really try to emphasize that if it's ever come across judgmental, or you think it's judgmental, or you think it's unrealistic, then you need to dig deeper, because Torah is there to help us grow to be the best selves that we can be.
Chanie, while you're on this topic, I remember a while ago when we had our roundtables on modesty, you came to give us some pointers, right? And it really stuck with me. You were saying a story of a young girl, I guess in seminary, that, they learned the beauty of tznius and everything. And then she I guess she wasn't, there yet. And she wore something not so perfect, and I guess she got some looks, or somebody said something and she confided it with you. She told you, but they don't know that yesterday when I went shopping and I really, really loved that dress, I went back and I returned it, and nobody knows that, and it was, you gave us a very interesting explanation for that, like how to, which is really the next question. How can we still guide our children, but have unconditional love? Like, do you say something? Is it okay, whatever they do? You know what I'm saying? How do you balance that? Teaching the right way and just accepting.
Right. It's interesting you brought that up. Now I remember, as you do, I don't remember what I told you at the time, but, that really goes to the core of this. There is the individual, and then there's the value. And we should never be mixing them up. What I've found personally in my own chinuch, my children's students, that I'm, by no means perfect, I'm working on it. 2 principles that I find that I try to think about and internalize, that I feel really direct me in finding this healthy balance, is first of all, that the core of being able to be mechanech in a way that is empathetic and loving and non-judgmental, at the same time as really giving over the truth, is that first of all, I need to get my ego out of the way. It's not about me. And I think that's probably the core challenge of Dulus, of anything. It always gets down to what Sarla was discussing, our own, the way we feel about ourselves, or any other challenge that comes up anywhere. It's really all the ego. And often, unfortunately, it happens that chinuch is hijacked by the ego, especially if it's our own children. I I can feel it myself. Sometimes, a child will say something, you get angry, you start feeling the disappointment coming up. How could they? And, and the frustration, the fear, and what's going to be. And there can be an endless, and this is my child, and what are people going to say? And there are just so many voices that can come up, and it's really all the ego. And it's, it could be a child in school and the teacher calls and, your child this and that. Somebody's like, what, my child? And what do you think of them? You must not love them, and on and on. So, the same thing can come up in chinuch, in teaching. And the first thing that I feel that I try to work on, and I want to share, is that we need to work so hard constantly on, stopping, centering ourselves and saying, it's not about me. It's just not about me. Don't react the moment. If I have anything to do with this, if I'm in a classroom and I feel like I'm being challenged, like, don't say a word. Like, first get a handle on yourself. This is not about you right now. This is really not about how you come across and what people think of you. And this is not about what people will think of your children and whatever, and what you're going to get from them. We don't have children to be able to receive nachas from them. So that's really first. I think when our ego gets out of the way, then first of all, we become capable of unconditional love, because what holds back the love, what holds back the acceptance is our frustration, our anger, our fear, right? All the disappointment makes our love conditional. So, it helps us give that love, and it helps us guide, because on the opposite side, often I think parents may be afraid to lead and guide their children, because also but what are they going to, how are they going to feel about me? There's nothing as horrible as hearing a child say, I hate you. But unfortunately, often that just means I'm upset right now, but we're afraid, who knows what might happen. And who knows, we're thinking the worst, doomsday scenario because I disappointed them right now, and on and on. And it becomes about my own fear and my own issues. And therefore we also can't lead. So on any direction, I find that really trying to get a handle on our ego and keeping it out of it, and saying chinuch is about the child. It's really, what does this child need? What does Hashem want from me for this child right now? And the second point that I try to tell myself is, in the balance between love and direction, and love and truth, is radiate ahava, educate yira. Radiate ahava, meaning the energy. We talked earlier about the energy, the feminine leadership. Everyone was saying, it's an energy. What am I giving off? Right? What feeling do you get from me? No matter what I'm saying and what I'm doing, whether it's a child or a student, do you feel that I care about you, that I love you, that I accept you, that I like you? Do you feel I really empathize and value you as a person? That's the feeling. And sometimes it's body language. It's not even words. It's really authentically, what do I feel in my heart? And then there's the educate. And the educate is not the feelings. Educate is a message. And we have to keep that, talk about the ego, we have to keep it not personal. The fact that I'm here to share with you a message doesn't mean I'm judging you, and it doesn't mean I'm upset at you. I'm just here to teach you something. So what I've found at home that can be helpful is that when there's a message I want to share with my children, I'll try to do it out of context as much as I can, and I can control myself, where not in the moment when you're doing something that needs correction, but at the Shabbos table, for example. And I've seen that the Rebbe speaks about, especially the Friday night Seudah, how meaningful it is to a Yiddish family, specifically to the chinuch of the children. It's you can milk it for all it's worth if you do it right. The Friday night Seudah especially, no one's running anywhere, and it's this peaceful family connecting time, and you can share whatever values you want with your children. You think, I think to myself, what came up this week, what messages, and whether you find it in the Parsha, you tell a story. We like to read stories to our children, Rebbe stories for Chassidim at the Shabbos table. And there's so many ways we can impart values of what is right. And what is right as a message has nothing to do with how I feel about you as a person, because even if I'm sharing something with you, we're saying it with a smile, with love. The feeling, the energy you're picking up is one of love, but the message is not permissiveness. The message is, this is the emes, this is what Torah says, and it's just not personal. And I think those two things really make a big difference in it coming across properly.
Thank you. Wow, that really very well understood and explained. Thank you so much. Rivky, when we're talking about balance of unconditional love, but giving guidance and direction to our children, to our students, how do you balance that?
So first of all, just knowing that we have the opportunity to be a mother is a gift from Hashem. It's, Hashem entrusted us, like it says in the book, Teachings of the Rebbe on Chinuch, that there's three partners. There's Hashem, the mother and the father, and Hashem really gave us the gift of taking care of these children. And when we know that they're Hashem's children, it just makes everything all different. And the role of a mother has so many different parts. First there's that idea of, I'm the mother, I run this house. So yes, I'm gonna, have different parts of my motherhood, but first and foremost, I run this house. That's number one. And then there's different aspects of being a mother, different roles that we play. We want to be a friend to them when they come home from school. We want to be that listening ear that the kids can hear, they have what to say. They came home from school. We want to make ourselves available, not be on our phones, try to, have supper available, ready, and really listen, because especially when they get older and everybody has what to say, and everybody had a long day and everybody wants to share, be interested, even if the stories get a little long, be interested in what they have to say, because if you're going to be that person that they are going to come home to and they know that they can have a safe, peaceful atmosphere and a safe, peaceful person that they can talk to, they are not going to feel the need to go here and go there and get their love from someone else. They know that you are there and you care about them and you're interested to hear what they have to say. Because ultimately that's what we need as children, as mothers, as fathers, as humans. We need love, safety, and acceptance. And when we know that we are getting that from our homes, then we have the ultimate peace and tranquility. And when the kids come home, we want to have a peaceful atmosphere in the home. We want to constantly check the temperature in our home. Is it happy? Is it sad? Is it scary? Is it screaming? Is it yelling? Is it relaxing? Is there music playing? Is there like nervousness, anxiety? So someone once said to a shlucha, like, how do you know if you're doing too much outreach? Like, how do you keep that balance? And the shlucha said, I check the temperature of my home. And I check up on my kids. I see what's going on in the house. What is the tone? Are the kids being needy? Are they frustrated? Are they unhappy? Then I know I got to tone it down a little bit. But if things are going well and everybody's happy and doing their thing, then she says, I can keep up what I'm doing. So we want to check the temperature of our home. And we also want to be in tune with our children and check the temperatures of our children. Very often Shabbos morning, the house is quiet, the baby's sleeping, the kids are in shul, and I go to every kid's room. I sit on their beds one at a time, no one else in the room. And I think about the child. I think like, okay, what does the kid need physically? Clothes. Okay. Do they have everything they need? Emotionally, how are they doing? How are they doing with this sibling, with that sibling? Do they need a little help on my end? Do they need more attention? Do they need more my time? Maybe they need, there's the 5 love languages. What do they like? What do they need? Do they need me to buy them little gifts? Do they need something extra? More attention, a walk, quality time. There's, different ways of how, and the way to find out how a child, what their love language is to see what they're asking most of. Like, Ma, you never spend time with me. Okay, so you really need quality time. That's your thing. Or Ma, you never buy me anything. And sometimes the child, you feel like you're giving them a lot, but they're just looking at what they don't have. And that's fine. We just need to remind them, just the other day, my daughter said, Ma, you didn't lay with us tonight. I said, you're right. But I sat on the front porch with you for a half hour. I bought you summer clothes. We went to the park for pizza. She's like, oh, I forgot. So we want to remind them. And we also want to show them that the number one priority in our life is them. They are, yes, we have responsibilities and there's so much going on, but it's not even about stating the obvious. It's literally about it's about stating the obvious and actually physically telling them, I love you. And there is nothing in this world that's more important. And I think about you. And when I go to the store and I buy something, it's because I care about you and I love you. And if a kid likes soup croutons, the blue cover one, when you take it out of the box from the groceries, you say, hi, I bought this for you because you love soup croutons. And I bought baba ganoush for you because that's your favorite dip. Don't just put it on the table, milk it. Let them know you love them, you care about them. And when you really show the kid that there is nothing more important in the world to you than them, then even when sometimes things are frustrating and they don't want to do it, they're going to have a good feeling of love and peace. They're going to be okay with it. Even the shower, he doesn't. I say, you're not in the shower for me. You take a shower until you're 18, and then you can do whatever you want. No, because I care about you, I'm telling you, please take a shower. Because I care about you. And when they really get it over and over and over, they feel loved and safe and peaceful, and they're not aggravated and frustrated. And that's really what we want. We want to lead them in the right direction, and we want to show them we love them. And just the final piece I want to say is, someone said to the Rebbe, how do we keep our children on the derech? And the Rebbe said, saying their kapitel will keep them on the derech. And the second is reading them stories of tzaddikim, bring Yerushalayim to our children. So that's something we want to try to bring into our homes.
Wow. I really love what you're saying about setting the temperature in the home. I know that, as mothers, we're always checking the temperature. It's not too hot, not too cold, that they're covered, but the temperature, the emotional temperature, that's really great. And I just want to say, we are getting closer to our current event topic that's going to be about setting the emotional temperature in the home when outside there's a lot of anxiety going on. How do you keep the family calm, even in upheaval, not in normal times, But first, we want to hear from our next two panelists about this same topic. Thank you so much, Rivky. So Devorah, how can you give your children, your students, your friends love, but also some guidance?
So I definitely agree with what, both Chanie and Rivky were saying, and probably going to be a little bit of a mix of both of their points. But I would say, to begin with, I'm very big about the idea of Avas Yisrael. I really believe in that strongly. And I think my children fall into that category as well, and just as equally. Sometimes we forget because they're so close to us, and, it's always about others, but, and today's chinuch is it does need to be adjusted to today's children. It's different times and things are different. So it's interesting because I am a very no nonsense type of person to begin with. I'm not just a sweet talker, even. I'll say something as it is, as it needs to be said. But I mean, for those who know me well, they'll know that. But I do also look at a situation from all angles, because I feel like it's very important to see what's happening. What are the different angles in this situation? Why is this why might this be happening by this person? What's the behavior pattern? What's, she's making them feel that way. And I think that the same thing is I have to apply with my own children in their actions and their choices and their behaviors. Why would they be choosing that? And I really have to look at all the different aspects and pull that in seriously and be in tune to that and be sensitive to that and work based off of that. So, they're definitely teaching me a lot about patience, and really at the same time, there has to be this unconditional love and an unspoken understanding that it's always about them, that it's for them, that there's going to be this love no matter what. And that way, when it comes to no, and they understand that this is for my best, that it's for their benefit and not for my benefit. It's about them. So I think this is such an important point, but I also believe that, people will say, but no is so harsh. But I think it's just about the wording. If you choose the right words, how to iterate your no, I think that's what it's about. And you do need to have that firm position, but if it comes with that love, the unconditional love, so that they always know it's for their best. It's not even if in the moment they're upset or they're angry, but they know that this is for their growth. So, just like Pirkei Avos teaches us about the Torah, and the mitzvahs are the boundaries. We just spoke about it last week in Pirkei Avos, that the mitzvahs are the boundaries for the Torah, and it's not to be oppressive and limiting and negative and fearful, but really for our own benefit, so that we can live healthy lifestyles, make good choices, make our best choices. But again, coming from a place of love, so that's what they see. At the end of the day, this is for my best. I understand today is no, but I know that it's for my good, and they can grow from that. And I think that it applies to our children. I think it applies to everyone we meet on the street, everyone's children, wherever they're holding in their life, in their process. I think we, like it was said, we have to remove our ego from all of this and see what the child needs. And as educators, as parents, as adults, as anybody, as whoever we are, we're someone to a child. So it's so important for us to, remove that ego. And today's, culture, with everything going on, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress that children tune into and they feel. So if we could be that calm, loving place for them to just know that they always can turn back to, that's everything for them.
Wow. And Devorah, you just made me think of something. Maybe the sometimes saying no is also a way to bring calm into the home. Like there's a leader here,
yes.
There's guidance.
Yeah. I actually find that when you say no, it creates these, an understanding, a border, a boundary. When it's just yes, 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 it causes a lot of confusion. You don't know where to end, where to begin. How do you make a decision? Everything is open to you. It's confusing. The options of having no sometimes, and of course I'm not talking about all the time, but those no's sometimes, those are really helpful to make healthy boundaries in our lives, so that there isn't all that kind of confusion. It's like, okay, this is for me, this is not. It's very simple.
Okay. And we have a great comment here that kids should also know that mommy and tati also have sometimes, it's no for them too. They also have to listen to Hashem. It's not just, we also get to know sometimes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And Sarala, can you answer this question for us? We're trying to create peace in the home. We have to discipline or educate. We have to educate. But we also want to give off love, especially like we said, in this day and age, it's so, so important to parent positively, but how can you not, be just a permissive parent?
So interesting. There was an eye-opening moment for me. I think that, and it happens to many of us, sometimes parenting becomes, like that game, the whack a frog game, it comes out, you whack it and you're just catching each frog and you're thinking at it, that we get into like, crisis mode. We're just responding to, this kid acts good. No, don't scream and don't yell and clean up. I want you to make a mess. And it's very reactive. And even though I kind of knew it in the back of my mind, it was still very eye-opening for me to remind myself that parenting, none of that is parenting. It's like crisis management. It's blowing out the fires. No business can function that way. It's not a healthy way. And that parenting is not reactive, it's proactive. Like Chanie explained, sitting at a Friday night table and saying stories, gorgeous, it's beautiful. That a lot of what people search for help with parenting is actually reactive. What do I do? My kid, and it's normal, it's natural. When someone's acting up, what do I do? But it's important for us to take a step back and say parenting is actually not about the policing. Lachey Taub said it very well Sunday night. He said, policing, protecting, and providing are like getting it, that's like basic, those are prerequisites that your kids need for the main job that you have, which is parenting. And that's really what I ask myself, am I just responding to the kids fighting at the moment, to whatever crisis is happening, or am I taking time to think and teach them, literally like in camp when we think of themes or like teachers, like how am I teaching them the value of kindness, sharing, what to do, I know when I'm upset, that's not when I can learn. And it's the same with our children. Recently, I also started making a point to really spend time, even go out with each of my two older kids. And my younger ones, I have time in other ways, but that's when the conversations happen. But nothing, the chinuch doesn't flow, You mentioned discipline, parenting, it doesn't flow in the moment when something just happens. It has to be a predetermined, and I think that's what it means, a half an hour kind of day. I wish I did that, but it's more like, think about it proactively. What are you teaching your kids? And you can't overwhelm them with 6 million things. What's the theme in our house this week? And I know that I need help with it. We all need help with it, but there's so many resources. There's kids books and, the Laman Nishu and the Fafringen, and there's so much. And it's not a contradiction, the way you phrase it, it's like, is it either love or discipline? Hashem loves us unconditionally. And yet he gave us a Torah. He gave us a Torah. He gave us values. We know, Benkach Banayim. No matter what we do, I'm a free song. Banayim, we are Hashem's children. Hashem loves us, and Hashem teaches us in the Torah. What I like, what I don't like. This is what's good for you, like Devorah said, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So the question really becomes, parenting really becomes not just a way of dealing with behaviors or specific things, which is helpful and important. It's like, it's how to do didactics, but it's fine, it's good, but that's not the essence of parenting. The essence of parenting is me asking myself, etc., what are our values and how are we giving them over?
Amazing.
That's all that.
Amazing. And that whack a frog, wow, that mashal was great. And it reminds me, we had that parenting class. She doesn't like when we say parenting, the chinuch class with Ruda Heller. And she was saying she couldn't understand why people always ask her about bedtime. They have such a problem. And she says, they don't want to ask me anything else. All they want to know. And then I realized, because bedtime, they have to actually do something. They have to put their foot down and the kids have to go to bed. But she said, well, what about the rest of the time when they're proactively parenting, not policing, and she really, like you said, it was like an eye-opener when I went to her classes about what parenting really looks like, sitting with the kids at dinner. And she says, you have those 2 hours, 3 hours until they go to bed after school, spend time with them, like you said, tell stories, talk to them, do something, be a parent, not a police. Thank you so much. So now we're going to get to the crux of the matter. Now that we have this very good foundation of what our job is and what our homes should look like. And Rivky, the fourth question we have here today is, and we have 2 more after this one. The fourth question is practical ways to keep calm for ourselves, for our homes, in light of current events. I took a sneak peek last night on Instagram just to see what people are talking about. I don't like Instagram. I'm not a social media person. I had to have a platform for Jewish women influencers. So I went on to see, and it was scary. I must say it was scary. All these posts about who's tweeting anti-Semitic remarks. This guy was lo leinu, attacked or slurs. Practical ways to keep ourselves centered and calm and our families in light of what's going on. Rivky.
Okay, so first of all, I think it's important to be in the know. Be in the know of what is going on around the world. At the same time, we don't have to watch every single clip that goes around 10 times, think about it, worry about it, talk about it, share it, because that just creates panic and anxiety. Even I remember with when, COVID was in its full height, I remember people saying, oh, I just sit at the window and there was just Hatzalah cars passing by. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit and watch the Hatzalah cars go by, and I taught my kids during these difficult times, if you're worried, let's do something about it. Let's say the Floyd protests. Let's get the alarm ringers for everybody in the family because it's, it is not such safe time. So in case Sasson there's a problem, it's loud. And then let's learn chitas. Let's take $1, put it in the pushka every time you leave the house, or a penny or a quarter. Wow. Someone said to the Rebbe, they were very worried about something. And the Rebbe said, make sure you kiss the mezuzah. because in the mezuzah is Shema, and it will help remind you that Hashem is with you every second of the day. So these are small things we could teach our children. A little bit of money in the pushka, say a kapitel tehillim, kiss the mezuzah. And I personally do not have Facebook. I left Instagram and Facebook, but I know about the news. So I don't have to watch it all day, every day. It comes to you, whether you like it or not, the news will come to you. So you will know what's going on. You will find out whether it's from WhatsApp or people will tell you, don't worry. But at the same time, you don't have to watch it all day, every day, because that is going to cause you a lot of anxiety. I also find with the kids, when they come home from school and you do homework and you do supper and they play, and a whole day could go by and nobody will say, okay, not, let's say someone specific that's having a challenge will not say a word to you. At bedtime, boom. Ma, today in school, I got into an argument. I got into a fight. Mora said this, Rebbe said that. I'm scared of the rockets. I'm scared of this. So I started pushing bedtime up earlier because they want to talk. And I was like, oh, this is going on too long. Like I'm tired. So when I push it up early, now I'm like, okay, I'm giving a nice amount of time. And suddenly, one by one, the kids start to talk. So it's very powerful at that time too. That's when they open up. I mean, every kid's different, but I find for my kids at night, they're relaxed. There's nothing going on. Things start to happen. And there is a lot of uncertainty in the world. And, besides for the spiritual aspect, what we can also do is, in light of all the uncertainty and the tragedies, we can also show a different part to our children. And that is the silver lining, the good things that are going on in the world. For example, I was reading in the Ami magazine, the Meron tragedy. You have a picture of a man who was standing, he was in the building right above the crowd where it was trampled. And you see him in the picture, and the Ami magazine tracked him down, and they had an interview with him. And he said, I saw what was going on, and I said, what can I do to help? So he tried throwing water bottles to the crowd, and he realized that their hands were so stuck together, they couldn't move. So he started pouring water in their mouths. And he said, later people came to me and said, you saved my life. Those little drops of water. He pulled the kid out of the crowd, saved him. He was screaming at the top of his lungs to the people coming towards the steps, don't come here. Don't come here. There's danger. And he said, I didn't think even one person heard me. And later people called him and said, by the way, I heard you screaming. Mm-hmm. And the point is, we can teach our families, ourselves, when there's a tragedy, don't run into the line of fire, be safe, but don't go home. Stick around. Maybe there's something you can do that can help someone. He was also saying that he saw a Hatzalah member, and a little boy came over to him and he was crying, and he said, I lost my yarmulke. And that Hatzalah member didn't breathe. He just took off his cap, took off the yarmulke, gave it to the boy, and put his cap back on. Any way that you can just be of help. The rockets, we could teach our children, yes, it's terrible what's happening, and this is very sad, but there's some amazing things going on. And we could see Hashem's hand. There's a bus full of soldiers, and as soon as they left, a rocket hit it, and the whole bus got destroyed. So we can show our kids that everything is the hand of Hashem. Like it says in Chavos Levavos, no ruler, no human being can do anything without the permission of Hashem. And when we drill that point home, that Hashem is running the world, and every single thing that's happening, even if we can't see it, is exactly the way it needs to be, and Hashem is running the world, then we'll have peace and tranquility. And we hope that Hashem will not make it so disguised, and we can actually see it in the open. But for now, we just have to comfort ourselves knowing that this is exactly what needs to happen, and Hashem is taking care of us, and it's all for the good.
Wow. Rivky, I really like how you combined giving your kids those ringers and giving tzedakah, saying you gave them safety, like something to feel more safe, but also mezuzah and tzedakah. I like that combination. And when you mentioned Meron, it really brings tears to my eyes. And Shavuos, I was in Kingston, Pennsylvania. We're visiting our kids there. Baruch Hashem, our son has a yeshiva there. We went to visit them, and I was in shul, and I was still very not settled about the whole Meron thing, and then the rocket starting, and then the Stalin shul, and it was like, what is going on? And I was so unsettled sitting there in shul, and I saw an old friend of mine, Chanie Newman Schechter, and I know that she is very deep, and I told her, Chanie, give me some words of encouragement, tell me something that can calm me down. And she told me something that really helped me. She said she heard from Manis Friedman that first of all, we all have to remember that nobody can die before their time. So it's like what you're saying, Hashem runs the world. She said, any of the Meron victims, first of all, we have to know nobody died. They were meant, this was their time. The thing is they were zoiche to die doing a mitzvah. By Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, and Manis Friedman said, you can imagine that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was greeting them in Gan Eden, and what a schus their soul had to die that way. They must have been so special. And then she added something of her own from her heart. And I knew that she has this stuff in her. She tells me, I was thinking to myself, I remember years ago, a tzaddik passed away. I think it was the Baba Sali, she said, and people on the way to his levaya were shot, were killed. And it was a terrible thing. And the Rabbanim in Eretz Yisrael said that later on something happened, some terror act, and the Jews were miraculously saved in Eretz Yisrael. And they said maybe those martyrs on the way to the levaya protected all Am Yisrael. And she says, when the Gaza rockets happened right after Meron, I just thought to myself, I don't know if this is true. She said, I thought to myself, maybe those 45 martyrs saved our whole nation from the 4,000 rockets. It was a big miracle. We had 12 losses, but 4,000 rockets. She says, who knows if they saved us? Al Kiddush Hashem, So it also gave me some back to the bitachon, back to the emunah. So thanks for bringing that up. Chanie, some practical tips for being calm and making our kids, families, and friends calm during this time.
So, it's a pretty intense topic. I appreciate everything that Rivky just shared. I want to reinforce that, first of all, specifically about, we talked about the woman as the energy in the center of the home. And I think it's critical that we ask ourselves, how are we doing before we can help anyone else? And we're not benefiting anyone, as Rivky said, by obsessively following the news. There's a certain human tendency, I think, to feel like if I'm going to cry more and if I'm going to know more tragic news and follow it and obsess over it, that somehow I'm being empathetic and helpful. And that's not really the case, because yes, we shouldn't be ignoring what's going on. We should be aware, and, we'll talk about doing something constructive to be helpful, but just pulling ourselves down is, I think it's no secret that these days, anxiety has gone through the roof, mental health challenges across the board in all ages, especially I'm seeing, youth, but anyone. And we're not helping anyone pulling ourselves into that space. And we find that Torah, actually, there's an interesting minhag that a woman who's expecting is not told bad news. That is a Yiddish minhag. And I think just thinking about that, and it's not obviously only for expecting women, it's understanding how Torah recognizes that when you're responsible for children, you first and foremost have to be responsible to keep yourself in a healthy, emotionally healthy space. And sometimes not obsessively following everything is the best thing you can do, so that you can be the one anchor of calm and support in your family's lives. So I wanted to reinforce that, first of all. But second of all, to Rivky's point about doing something active to help, I think this is really the core of the Rebbe's message, that, you can sit there and be frightened, or you can say, what am I going to do about it? How am I going to help? You think of the Lag BaOmer parade in 1967, when, right before the 6-Day War, when it was terrifying, and the Rebbe spoke to the children. Hashem is, the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael are in a matzav that Hashem is watching them, the Rebbe explains. That's why the Rebbe frames it. They're in a matzav that they are clearly under Hashem's protection, and you have been given the schus to be a part of making that happen. And I think if we see ourselves that way and our children, what are we going to do to help bring about Hashem's brachas and protection for Klal Yisrael and for the world? And within, all the things Rivky mentioned, there's tzedakah, psukim are so powerful. What a big deal the Rebbe made about the children saying psukim, gathering our children, saying a parak Tehillim, saying the psukim with them. But also realizing that we have the Rebbe's message that we are at the threshold of Geula. And 30 years ago, the Rebbe told us that we need to take responsibility to make it happen. And the way we can do that is by learning about Mashiach and Geula in a way that really makes it personal and relevant, in a way that we can connect to it so that we can take it on and make it real. And I personally, I'm grateful that I have the schus that I landed Bashkacha Pratis with the responsibility to write the Mashiach page in the Neshei newsletter. And it forces me, and I can't, like, there are times that I'm not there, and I'm not sure. I'm like, what now? Like, what Mashiach page are we writing now with everything going on? And I'm forced to step back and really examine, like, what does the Rebbe teach us about Mashiach and Geula that can be, that I can relate to now, that can really help me get into that space, and what can we do about it? And a few thoughts that I had recently are, if we learn about Mashiach and Geula in a way that, that we find relevant and we understand what it is, that Geula is a world of revelation of Hashem, where we're all going to recognize that it's Hashem's world and we're here to serve him, then the point is that this is a process that happens through human effort, right? We as Yidden are the ones who turn the world into that kind of place where we recognize Hashem's oneness. So what are we doing about it? And either we can look at all the terrible things that are happening, and there's no way to spin it other than it is really not revealed good that we're seeing. But there must be a purpose, and it must be congruous with the Rebbe's message that the Geula is imminent. So how can we take advantage? We can, as Chassidim, we've been trained to don't let a crisis go to waste. Take everything that's going on and say, what can I do in this situation to find the opportunity to bring the message of connection to Hashem and the Geula to the world? So for example, just a few thoughts, like, when we see, Blau, the chaos and the insecurity going on in the world, and how so many institutions have been falling apart, financial security, the illusion of financial security anyway, has really collapsed for so many people. What they thought was, businesses for years, it's unfortunately, whether it's governments, there are so many things that we were sure could never happen. And just, out of nowhere, you're just like, what kind of world is this? So we are at prime time to take the opportunity to really internalize for ourselves and help share, we talk about influence, really share the message that we never had security in the first place that was independent of Hashem. We were never in control. We're suddenly feeling out of control. We've never been in control. Hashem has always been in control of the world, and now we can really see it. So we can really help the world come to recognition of Hashem. Similarly, we see, unfortunately, the rising anti-Semitism, and, Hashem should protect all Yidden everywhere, and we shouldn't see it anymore. I think we need to grab the opportunity for, sometimes we get complacent in this galus that we're in, where we haven't been as used to it. And it's possible for some individuals to feel comfortable blending in, and I don't want to be different, and, politically correct, there's no real difference between people, and on, and whatever, and kind of hide their Yiddish identity. Here we have an opportunity to really bring out and reinforce and point out how a Yid is a Yid. Everyone knows we're Yidden. We are different no matter what, and either we will embrace it proudly and live as Yidden the way we're supposed to be, or, the guy will point it out to us anyway, so it's really a reminder that Ata B'chartanu, and we should embrace that Yiddish pride, and we can reinforce that in those around us. One more example, we talk about the rising anxiety. It's honestly, it's painful. I see it as a teacher, it's just everywhere, crippling anxiety in our society, in our community. And we always needed to learn Chassidus, and we always needed to, Rivky spoke about Chavis Halavavis, the Rebbe, how many times the Rebbe begged, anyone who reached out with any kind of issue in the category of anxiety, learn Chavis Halavavis, learn Shar B'Tochen, and which has been translated recently in a beautiful translation, which I've been enjoying very much. And, sometimes we're like, oh, whatever, I don't have time for it, I'm fine. And no, we're not fine right now. None of us are fine. And maybe we can just grab the opportunity and say, now I know I really need to learn Shar B'Tochen, and I need to learn Chassidus. I need to, like you said, in good hands. I need to connect with Emes, because there's no way otherwise. And we can share that with those around us, whoever's been saying, who needs Chassidus, or who needs Shar B'Tochen, or I'm okay. No, now it's clear we all need it. And we can, as the Baal Shem Tov was told by Mashiach, when is Mashiach going to come? When the well springs of learning about Hashem are spread to everyone, now is our opportunity to get everyone to learn Chassidus and learn about Hashem, because everyone knows they need it. So I think if we change the mindset from like, oh no, where's the world headed? How horrible are things? To what can we do to jump in right now and chaperine and just like charge ahead with bringing the message of Geula to the world, we will find the opportunities within the challenges and really make it happen. I want to, finish with one thought that, I saw somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but Hasidim don't follow the news, we make the news. So for every amount of minute that I'm spending following some posts and following whatever's going around, what am I doing to make the news, to create what's actually happening? We should be at the forefront of turning this world around.
Wow. I think it's fascinating how you just took all these huge challenges and turned them into these exciting opportunities. It's really a different mindset. It just brings to mind, what Viktor Frankl wrote, about how, the starving, emaciated prisoners in Auschwitz all of a sudden found an opportunity that they could be nursing people back to health, sharing their half of bread. It's you're turning the victim mentality into leadership. And thank you. Wow, that's very empowering. And Devorah, how do you deal with the current events and staying calm and centered and showing that to others?
So definitely,
Devorah, I just want to say, I'm sorry, beautiful comment over here. I'm blown away by all these speakers. So Baruch Hashem, thank you. And thank you, speakers. Okay.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. I definitely have to agree with, everything obviously that's being said is so many valuable points. But I do agree that, well, first of all, I think we always have to remember that Hashem runs the world. At the end of the day, you see a lot of loud voices, influencers, celebrities, whatever it is, putting out content and words and people are getting nervous and they're worried and they're concerned about, things that are going around, etc. But, and it seems like they're the ones in charge. But the point is that it's Hashem runs the world. This is Hashem's world. And we have to do our part, spread good, spread light, do the right things, teach our children, learn more, do more. Yes, when COVID hit, we started Chitas as a family. Every night we did the Chitas app and we would listen during dinner. And my almost 6-year-old, he's like, oh, we forgot Chitas today. Like, he's very into it. It adds security. It adds a feeling of reassurance, remembering that we're connected to Hashem. We're connected to the source. We're connected to Hashem who runs everything. So we're going to do our part. We're going to spread light. We're going to do good. We're going to keep adding. And the rest is in Hashem's hands. I mean, after that, it's really, it's up to him. And it could be painful and it's hard to watch and be part of. But, I have no doubt that Hashem created this world and brought us here. And it was for something bigger. It wasn't just to watch everybody suffer. So it just takes a real wholehearted believing and living it, because that's really the only way. And again, also not to overdo it with watching things and being in the know of everything. I mean, I'm not a news person in general. I'm not a politics person in general. Like Rivky said, you get it. You hear it from everywhere. You'll know what's going on. You don't have to be pulling yourself all into it. But what has really struck with me through this is my Jewish identity. It's screaming out of me. It just feels like I just want to share it more and more and more. I want to live it. I want to be, I just want it to be, open and joyful and I just want it to be noticeable and real. And the more and more through this. And it's because I think it's just, like I said before, I'm connecting myself to the source. I feel like this is who I am at the core. I have so much to be proud of. So, I'm nothing to be ashamed of. This is an amazing, we're part of an amazing people, beautiful people. Our history is incredible. Which people do you know that when negative happens, they're doing good things, they're making light, and they're not fighting it. So there's just, and I know Hashem put me here specifically as a mother, as a wife, as a sister, as a daughter, to do this, to be this person, to show my Jewish identity in this very strong way, specifically because this is where I would be best capable to do that. And I feel proud of it. I don't feel like I need to be popular, whatever's unpopular or popular. I don't feel like that's, needs to be anything a part of any of my thought process. It's just really appreciating who I am as a Jewish mother, woman, daughter, etc. And I think that it's the more we stand for what we believe in, respect ourselves, we're kind of expected, I think, as Jewish people to stand for who we are. I think it's just expected of us. And the more I respect myself and stand for who I am and for what I believe in and live it, really live it, outwardly, then I feel like the people around us feel secure because they say, like, this is a solid person. This is someone who has a sense of self and a sense of respect for themselves. And that's securing for people around us. And knowing that, I feel like, there's no question I have a duty to live that way, to help whoever's around me feel secure. And specifically my family, like, my kids, my spouse, whoever it is that is watching or, being there. And it's just so important and powerful to appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Devorah, ever since you told me, in our reviews these past couple weeks, rehashing, refining our message and what were the questions and the answers, that you all, thank you so much again for putting so much time into this. It's not just, I want to tell all our listeners, it's not just the hour and a half or 2 hours of the Zoom, it's weeks of every free minute that we have, talking and thinking and working together as a group for this. So I thank you so much, because all this information is so valuable. And not only is it here on the Zoom, but we're going to share it on YouTube and share the links for everyone to hear this. Everyone needs to hear this. And, Devorah, like, as I heard your answer, that this brought out the best in you, that you want to even more display your Jewish identity. I was talking to people about this panel and getting more ideas. And somebody told me a great story today. She said that a tour guide was taking a tour, a Jewish tour guide. And one of the members now recently told him, I shared this with Chanie earlier, he told him, maybe you could take off your yarmulke. You look so Jewish. We might be a target now, whatever. And he was so astounded, startled, the tour guide. And then he wanted to bring out his answer in a good way. So he saw a group of African-Americans sitting on the corner here in Brooklyn, in Crown Heights, I guess it was. And he tells the man on the tour, when they change the color of their skin, I'll take off my yarmulke, and it was like, they can be who they are. I need to be who I am. It is what it is, So,
yeah, it's the only way to really, to live, to really live for me. This is like, I don't want to fight with something. This is like my core. This is my essence. I just want to live it and appreciate every moment of it. There's so much beauty in it.
Wow. That's so inspiring. And we're getting more beautiful comments, that words of wisdom. Thank you. And Sarala, calming our homes and our environments when all this is going on around us, any practical tips?
My father's an incredible storyteller. He always had stories for us growing up. But this one story that he repeated a lot, sticks out in my mind. And he said there was once a very wealthy man who was making a trip with his big, beautiful carriage on the road, and it was cold outside and it was a bumpy road, but he was in his big, ornate, comfortable, leather padded carriage. And as he's traveling, he looks out the window and he sees a very poor old man on the side of the road with a very, very, very heavy package on his shoulder. And every step is an effort. The rich man feels very bad, and he rolls down the window of his carriage and says, you know, Bukiet, why don't you come into my wagon with your packages? A sigh of relief on this person's face. For real? Like, he couldn't believe his luck. He climbs up into the wagon with a lot of effort with his bag, and they continue on their way. And after a few minutes, the rich man turns around and sees the poor man behind him. And he sees that he's sitting in the wagon in the back, but he's still holding the package on his shoulder. Mm-hmm. He turns around and he said, we're in a wagon, put it down. So the poor man says to him, you're so kind. I just feel so bad. Like it's bad enough you're giving me a ride. I don't want you to have to give the package a ride also. Why is the poor man so foolish? Because the wagon is carrying it anyway. It's an illusion. He thinks he's holding on to the package. It feels bad, Nebuch, to put it down. But you're in the wagon. You have nothing to worry about. Mm-hmm. So I think that a lot of our anxieties and fears are because we're holding on to a package that we think we have to worry about. We don't have to. You know, I heard of somebody who takes all her fears and worries, she visualizes. She writes it down on a paper and like visualize putting it into like a worry box and wrapping it in a bow and giving it to Hashem. It robs us of peace of mind, of serenity and tranquility, all the words we're talking about in the beginning when we sit and worry about something. Worrying doesn't help. Fear doesn't help. And you ask for practical tips. The most practical tip that I find when I'm feeling anxious or the people around me are feeling anxious, it's like there's the clenching of the hands and the tightening of the chest. Right. So on a practical level, the first is the mind work, the spiritual work of, you know, it's in Hashem's hands. But on a physical level, being conscious of our breathing. Breathing. When we're holding it all in, when we're tense because we're so worried of what the outcome is going to be, it's an illusion of control and our whole body is tense. So literally taking deep breaths and exhaling, and at the same time, you know, breathing in the bitachon, the emunah, the faith, everything that everyone spoke about, Chanie, Rivky, Devorah, you know, breathing in the emunah, and if you didn't think about it, exhale your worries. Just give them to Hashem, because you're being foolish to carry it. You're hurting yourself. Just like that poor man is not helping anyone, not accomplishing anything. The stress and the worry doesn't help. Now, it happens to be, we don't have to get upset at ourselves for getting worried. Hashem gave us, and our nefesh Bahamas, the natural ability to be afraid, to take care of ourselves, right? All different parts of the brain, the amygdala, fight or flight, like it's normal. Our nefesh Bahamas was given the ability that, you know, to sense fear, to protect ourselves from danger. Like Rivky said, we have to do practical things. We go to sleep, we lock the door at night. We do things to protect ourselves. But we're not only the animal. We don't need to only operate out of instinct. So we lock the door and then we let go. And we let ourselves be able to fall asleep. Has there ever been a robbery with locked doors? There has. And we have worries and we have fears. I have millions of fears. What's going to be with this and what's going to be tomorrow, what's going to be with the kids, and like everyone said, it's just not in my control. So breathe in the bitachon, breathe out the worries, and focus on what I could do in a responsible, safe way, and then leave it up to Hashem. And that's where all the tehillim comes in, and shar bitachon, and everything. It's just acknowledging that I'm not giving up control. I never had it. Hashem knows exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And sometimes I do things, have habits that like give me security and peace of mind, and they're just an illusion. Nothing I do or don't do will protect me, or, you know, Hashem has a plan. So we can relax. He's driving the car. We don't have to backseat drive, and breathe and continue working on it. And we're not going to be perfect at it, but learning about it, coming together on such a Zoom, for bringing about it, re-inspiring yourself, that Hashem got our back, and our worry and anxiety, he doesn't need our help. What we can do to improve the situation, we come, say Tehillim, write to the Rebbe, daven, talk it out with a friend, spouse. We do what we got to do. But leave things in Hashem's hands.
Wow. Wow. I just took a good deep breath. Thank you. And also I really like that reminder. It's a good reminder for me myself that just lock the door, but then trust that you'll be okay. Don't lock the door and then worry that it's still not going to be okay. So do what you need to do to stay safe, but then trust Hashem. So thank you so much. And what the next thing that we want to talk about is one thing that makes us feel calm is when we connect, especially if we're married and we have a spouse, sticking together now, or with other family members, or with our kids, or with our parents, our brothers, our sisters, sticking together now with each other gives us strength. And what can we do now for Sholom Bayis to be more together as a family unit? Because when we're strong inside, we can face the outside. So I think that a big work right now is to stick more together to each other, to hold on to each other. Rivky, can you start and tell us just, how to be more connected now to our family, to our friends, to each other, so that we can face this together?
Yeah. Okay. So Sholom Bayis is the conduit into which Hashem pours brachas into our home. So Sholom Bayis is extremely important, and we want to put a lot of focus and energy into our Sholom Bayis. They say first comes the spouse, then comes the children. Sholom Bayis, our spouse, is extremely important, and we want to spend time with them. And some people might say, oh, but if I go out with my husband, then I feel bad. I'm gonna leave the kids home with the babysitter. Let me tell you something. If you care about your children, you need a break. It's really not about the quantity, how much time you spend with them. It's about the quality. And if you want to have quality time with your kids and be able to be a mensch and have energy, go out with your spouse, get rejuvenated. In addition, you care about your children, have a nice relationship with their father so that you could have a nice, peaceful atmosphere in the home. And then everyone will be happy. One helpful tip, the Rebbe says, buy yourself a friend. You do not want to put the entire burden of all the things that are going on in your head and all the shopping and all the buying and what you could do and blah, 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 blah on your spouse. Speak it out with a friend, speak it out with your sister, with somebody that you enjoy talking to. Unburden a lot of the things on them. And then you can talk to your husband also, but it shouldn't be the complete be all and end all. And that will create a very nice atmosphere in your relationship. Another very nice idea with Sholom Bayis and with the family is to create a game night in the house, something that the whole family can enjoy as a family with your spouse. And I know for a while we were doing Wednesday game nights, and if you want to make it happen, you make it happen. Don't rely on your spouse. Oh, I wish she this, I wish she that. You want it, go get it. Every Wednesday, we baked a cake. We had a game on the table. He came home, he ate supper, he chilled, and there it was. We played a game. You want to do something, make it happen. Don't rely on your spouse. Oh, I wish she this, I wish she that. If you feel like you would want to spend more time with him, then say, hey, does Monday night work? Let's do a date night. Oh, but he's not asking me. You want it, you get it. And that causes a lot of frustration to just dissipate because there's no waiting around. You want it, ask for it, make the plans, get the babysitter, find a place to go. Obviously, he can help out, but if you want something, go out and get it. Another thing that's important is to communicate. Sometimes there's a difficult situation that's arising and no one's talking about it. And there's an elephant in the room and it's there on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and no one brought it up. And it's just causing a barrier in the relationship. Talk about difficult subjects, as difficult as it may be. Bring it up, clear the air, bring in someone else if you need to. But don't leave things hanging. It just causes barriers in the relationship, and you want to keep things clear and open. And keeping things clear and open and having brachas in your home is all comes down to, the Rebbe says, Taras Mashpacha. It's the glue to our marriage. And I'm going to read from Likkutei Sichos Perek Beis, something small on the brachas that we receive when we are keeping Taras Mishpacha. By observing the mitzvah of Nida, Tara, and Tefillah, which was given to the Jewish woman, she thereby brings purity and holiness into family life. Through this mitzvah, one merits fine, healthy children, whole in body and soul. Children who will follow the path of Torah and mitzvahs and who will bring true nachas and joy to their family. And, whatever is going on with our Taras Mishpacha, we can always add, be better about passing, be better about putting something on the table. There's always room for improvement, and it's something that it's so powerful and it brings such beautiful brachas to our homes, and we want to just work on our Taras Mishpacha. In another letter from the Rebbe, somebody, not sure which spouse, is complaining about the Sholom Bayis in the house, and the Rebbe says, I'm not attempting to make a judgment over who's right, who is wrong, whose fault is it, and to what extent. But the Rebbe says, for the sake of Sholom Bayis, even if one person is 100% right or 100% wrong, keep the peace and preserve your Sholom Bayis, because it is the most important thing. And the Rebbe says that when one person is going to keep a friendly attitude, the other spouse will mirror it and things will be resolved. So the main thing the Rebbe is saying is be nice, keep a friendly attitude, and your spouse will come around. I recently met a couple. They were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. And I said to them, okay, so what's the secret? And I said, what's the secret? What's the secret ingredient? What's the secret to 50 years of this marriage? And one of them said, patience. Be patient with your spouse. They're going to go through things. It's not going to be always easy, but be patient till they work it through. And the other one said, exactly like the Rebbe said, be nice, be friendly, be happy, be smiling, don't be angry. And as Hashem, things will work out in marriages.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rivky. I really like what you said, that go and get what you need. You need a game night, you need a date night, make all the arrangements, make it so easy. Don't say, well, if he loved me, he'll figure it out. He'll buy it. He'll arrange it. No, I don't, I want him. I like that, and also what struck me also about Sholom Bayis, when we were preparing this was, it's interesting, marital bliss, marital harmony, right? They don't call it Avas Bayis or, Simchas Bayis. They call it Sholom Bayis. And this is like what you were saying from the letter of the Rebbe, just keeping the peace. So let's say somebody does have a more difficult time in their Sholom Bayis. Maybe that's their challenge. They have a challenging Sholom Bayis. I think that we're not asking them to be, denying that there's an issue. Go out and get the help that you need. But, can you just make sure not to scream, not to argue? Can you just in a calm way, settle things? My mother was here recently and she told me such a funny story. I never knew. She said that when my grandmother would sometimes criticize my grandfather, he would say to himself, Yaakov al taneh, Yaakov, don't answer, self-talk, and I started cracking up, I could just imagine him saying that, but it's such a good thing for us to say, I'm not answering now. I'm going to be the smart one. I'm going to control myself. Okay. Thank you so much. So after Rivky, we'll go to Chanie. We need to stick together now. We need strength in our homes more than ever to deal with what's going on. Can you give us some insight into that, Chanie?
Sure. Thank you. So, I'm thinking that with all the stress going around, there's no question that in many ways it must be impacting marriages because there's just this extra stress. Many people are experiencing financial stress. There have been health challenges. Unfortunately, there are people who are grieving. There's just so many things that can add extra stress to what is already, whether people have, they've had their kids home for a long time and trying to homeschool them, and all these things just weigh people down. And I think overall what happens in stressful situations is that when it comes to marriages, either the situation pulls a couple chas v'shalom apart, or it brings them closer together. And that's a conscious choice people have to make, because naturally, it's a very sad thing. But, I remember someone told me, from having dealt with this statistically, that let's say, when a couple has a miscarriage, chas v'shalom, that like very, very often what happens is the marriage is strained after, all kinds of things like that, because there's a need for support, and whoever needs that support may not be getting it because they're both struggling. And therefore they chas v'shalom drift apart. And I think we need to be so careful to ensure that that doesn't happen when they're stressed, whatever it is that's stressing either the mother or the father, the wife or the husband, whatever it is, or both of them, that I think we need to be very conscious of, like, if there's something that is causing stress that I need support for, and I can't get it from my spouse right now because they might also be stressed. So look for other sources of support, but choose to be there for your spouse and what they need. I think, people get so caught up often in my need, my stress, but I'm feeling this and I need that. But the spouse might also have their stresses and their needs and their need for support. And each one's kind of fighting for something the other doesn't have to give. So I think being very conscious about Sholom Bayis at this particular time, that we're thinking not only about our own needs, but really trying to tune into where is my spouse at, what is challenging for them, what might they need. And that doesn't mean I have to let go of my own, but we might have to get our own sources of support, friends, mentors, so that we can be there for each other and come out of a crisis or come out of a challenge closer, for really having supported each other and bonded, rather than chas v'shalom the opposite, which is very unfortunate. And one of the things, Shar B'tachon has been mentioned several times, and in good hands. And there's also the new version just came out from Sichas in English of Healthy in Mind, Body, and Spirit on mental health. Any of these can be super helpful. And I want to put forth a suggestion that couples can learn something together that strengthens their bitachon. Learn the Rebbe's letters on mental health or on emunah, learn Shar B'tachon, learn something together. I think is an incredible way to really support each other and grow together, rather than struggling chas v'shalom apart.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for those important pointers. And Devorah, how can we connect more now, especially at this time?
So I think that I feel like respect is really a foundational aspect in a relationship. First of all, self-respect, like I actually said earlier. But when you have self-respect, you can make space for the next person, because it's not all, you're not all encompassed by yourself. And when you start with respect, you make space to see them, to hear them, to realize, okay, this is a separate person, a separate identity. They have their own way of seeing things, their own way of understanding things, their own reality of things. And it might be different than yours, but when you respect them, you realize they're entitled to those thoughts and those, like, why is it only me that's allowed to have, the thought and the process and this, but they're not, and they have to just be on board all the time. So when you give them the respect and you give them validity for who they are and how they think, and time and space to process, and then when you go through the arguments, which are inevitable even in any relationship, because two people are different, they're not always going to agree on the same thing. But if you can respect each other, then you can hear each other through those arguments, and you can realize that, okay, you're coming from where you're coming from, and it makes sense that you're seeing it that way. And you can come out on the other side together, healthy, and your children can pick up on that, on this respect for one another, respect towards their parents, respect to each other. And I think it creates an atmosphere of calm, and it creates an atmosphere of menschlichkeit, and it just teaches us in general how to treat It teaches our children also how to treat each other, how to treat others when they go out in the world as well. And, you don't have to be scared of conflict. You just have to be respectful of the other person and understand that, hey, we might have a difference of opinion. That doesn't mean you're bad, you're terrible, you're this, you're that. You're a person with your own thoughts, and you have your validity to all the things that you think. So for me, that's the gateway to strengthening a relationship and, appreciating everything that they have to offer after that, and creating the loving and nurturing feelings that follow.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Devorah. And it's interesting because what you and Chanie were both saying was like, basically, it's almost like part of the mother's role or the wife's role or the woman's role to kind of make sure that everybody is okay, even our spouse, saying it's more on us in a way.
Right. I think that Rivky was also saying, I think in general, like it was said, whatever you want done, you can't expect it from others. If you want something, you have to model it, you have to create it, you have to be it. So if you feel like there's respect lacking, then start being more respectful, and they're going to pick up on that intuitively. They're going to start to behave that way on their own. They're going to realize you want more happiness, be happier, and everyone is going to start to pick up on that. And it's going to be a more happy home. So yes, you could complain, this one's not doing that, this one's so blah, this one's so or you could say like, okay, let me do my thing, let me do my part, and give them space and time, because not everybody works at the same pace, and they'll get there. And it happens. I've seen it in my own home.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. And we're going to go to Sarala. I just have a question for the panelists. This is this is the last question this is the last part of the fifth question. We were going to do also a part on summer. One of our panelists is asking us, since it is coming up to 2 hours, if we should leave the summer question for another time. Is that okay with all the panelists that we wrap up with this answer?
Sure.
Sholom Bayis? That's fine? Okay. Okay, great. So this is going to be our last answer. We also are going to put up on the screen how to contact the panelists, how to contact the Jewish Woman Influencer, if you want to be part of our WhatsApp chat, if you want to follow us on Instagram. So all that information is going to go up for you. You could save it and then you can have it. So Sarla, our last question of the night is how to connect better in our homes so that we feel stronger to deal with everything.
Okay. So Chanie mentioned something very powerful, to be the wife that our husband needs. And what I want to just talk about a few minutes is how. Like how? I want to be idealistic and I want to be the wife that my husband needs, but I'm a real person and I have emotions, and I know me, I'm a fire. I do get upset easily. The question is, how do I deal with my emotions? How do I on the one hand have all this idealism, and then like I have the reality, which I do. The reality is I'm upset. So I find it very, very important to use the biggest tool that Hashem gave me, my mind, my thoughts. And this is exactly the test of where Chassidus is lasting, is true if it works, if we're internalizing it. And the Alter Rebbe talks about what causes a feeling, a thought. So I'm feeling a feeling, I have to go to the root, to the thought. I could right now, if I think of something my sister-in-law did to me, or sister, or niece, or just because that's the joke, that's why I said sister-in-law. I have great sister-in-laws, especially if you're on here watching. I love you all. But I could think of something anyone said and get offended right now. How? I'm sure every one of us said, if you think of one line somebody said to you, you'll get offended right now. The emotion of hurt will come up. Where did that emotion just come from? It came because you thought about something somebody said. Our thought is what actually creates the emotion, our perception. I could rile myself up just by thinking, spinning in circles. So in terms of Sholom Bayis, the most helpful tip is going back to my thoughts. And one of my friends shared something that I'm so grateful. She said to me, Sarah, do you make things mean things that they don't mean? What do I mean by that? let's say something does happen. Somebody does something that does upset us. Our spouse does something that is frustrating. You know, somehow we manage to turn it into, you know, you left a spoon on the counter. It means you don't care about me. If you really cared about me, you would never leave a spoon on the counter. That's the thought that gets us so mad. If you really cared about me, if you really loved me. So the work I have to do is, if something happens, not making it mean we're not cared for, not making it mean the end of the world. It's that perception. Okay, person's late, this happened, they said they didn't mean it, but if we could tell ourselves, I'm still cared for, our response would be miles apart. Our response would be so different. Because it's that thought, you know, like that painful wound in our mouth that our tongue keeps going back to, that really does us in. You know, that, you know, like ruminating of what they said or what they did or what, and I find, you know, at least for me, it's so helpful to say, wait, I'm assigning meaning where there's no meaning, right? The person did not mean to hurt me. The person did not, they happened to said something that maybe I found hurtful, but how could they? How could you? The how could I is meaning that I'm assigning that is not the truth. It's my perception. And that's where I can work on myself. The other thing that trips me up is like, I hear people talking, especially like, you know, on social media or in the coaching world. Like, I used to be one way and now I'm totally different. And sometimes that trips me up because I'm the same person. You know, I wish I could say, oh, I used to always react like that. And now my anger problem, my frustration, my criticism, any of the stuff. Yeah, that's it. I'm done. I don't know that really change happens that way. We just turn over in 1 second. And it is important to celebrate, you know, like Zohar said, that each time that you held yourself in. So rather than just turning a new leaf, I know that for me, that feels very unrealistic. But one time, you know, it must be our spouse got caught up in something busy, so they forgot something, but not assigning it, not saying, oh, it must be, not trusting that our spouses want the best for us and care about us. Obviously, in a healthy, safe relationship and marriage, we're talking about, which I just want to throw in there. Sometimes it's a little bit painful for people that have really, you know, certain challenges in a marriage, and they come listen to Sholom Bayis course, and it's like, that doesn't relate to them. I once heard Rabbi Shais Tau, that, you know, there are certain things that you need to leave for the experts. The same way, you know, me and you wouldn't just go and do a brain surgery. There are people who deal with surgeries. So if you're watching this and you're in a situation that feels like it, you know, you need a brain surgeon, then don't feel bad. And you still have what to do to bring peace and tranquility to the home. And a lot of times these tips, you know, might not apply in the case of a brain surgery, but every one of us can be responsible for our happiness, like all the other women spoke about. And I'm talking like simple things that we could do for our happiness. Like Golda Reichman from Streetlight Cafe. She says, turn on a music, pick 3 songs that you like, and dance with your kids. Just dance and get the hormones flowing. Get your energy, get the endorphins or anything, you'll feel in a better mood. And the energy is really, it's contagious. It's contagious because when we're down, we're down. And when we're up, we're up. And we don't always have full control over it, but the one time when we do something proactive, that one time where we take care of ourselves, where we dive in, where we let go of anxiety, you know, if we have to sum up the whole event, we tune into Hashem, we tune into what we need spiritually, physically, we give it all to ourselves. When, you know, talking about taking temperature of the home, taking also our own temperature, because our temperature will impact the temperature of our home. And so when we come to working on Sholom Bayis, everything everyone's saying, learning together and respecting and growing, but also owning our happiness and working on our perception and assuming the best intentions of our spouse, trusting the connection, trusting that they care about us, trusting that, you know, it's funny because Rivky read the same letter that I wanted to share also. I read the exact same letter. It was like unbelievable how the Rebbe just said it. You know, the main thing is peace in the house. So we're not perfect. And I think that was a running theme also. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. And this is what I want to end up with. When we make a mistake, it is such a gift to ourselves and our spouses to apologize. And that restores so much peace and harmony. You know what? I'm so sorry. I should not have spoken that way. I should not have said that. I should not have done that. I should not have reacted that way. And apologizing and also forgiving. Also forgiving. And so much of what we learned tonight, you know, knowing the ideal, going back to my real life. If there wasn't a gap between where we are now and where we wanted to be, we would hardly be human. So l'chaim to all of us that we should put in our best foot forward to grow towards that ideal, at the same time being realistic, doing the best that we can, and forgiving ourselves and the people around us. And I want to bench us all with all the brachas. Harmony, peace, shalom bayis, health, joy, only good until the ultimate joy and goodness of Mashiach now. So thank you so much, Zohar, for organizing this. And thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you, Sarla. And, you know, I just want to say that doing this panel is so rewarding for me personally, because I learned so much. And one thing that I learned this time that I think that, you know, and by the way, I just want to say thank you, not only to our panelists, but to their families. Because I know from my family, when there's a Zoom or there's a panel, everybody has to help that night. Everybody has to pitch in. They've been giving me ideas the whole time. So thank you to all our families as well. And I just want to say that something that I learned from all this talk that we reviewed for this panel is I realized when it says that in the schus of the righteous woman, we were redeemed, and in the schus of righteous woman, we will be redeemed again. I used to think, what did they do exactly, those righteous women? What did they do? I really want to know, you know, in what schus will be redeemed again? And then after talking to you about bitachon and emuna and centering ourselves so we can anchor the home, we can anchor our communities, we can anchor the world, I said to myself, my gosh, didn't they say that the women in Mitzrayim, you know, they had that emuna and bitachon and that quiet resistance, you know, like, you don't like that I look like a Jew? We're not going to change our names now. We're not going to change our dress now. We're not going to change our language now, right? And that quiet resistance, like, you don't want us to have families? Okay, we're going to have even more. You know, that quiet, you know, strength. And also that, you know, here they were encouraging their husbands. The whole thing of Mitzrayim was to discourage the family life, right? They made them work around the clock so they could never be together, to break them apart. And the woman would go out at the hardest times when the husbands were so tired and say, no, we're going to get out of this and we're going to do this and we're going to continue having a family despite everything. And that bitachon and emunah and that optimism and that hope, I suddenly realized, my gosh, maybe that's the call of the hour. Maybe that's the righteous woman that we need to be today, to be that quiet strength, that bitachon, that emunah. We're going to get through this, and you know, we're going to believe, and Hashem is on our side, and we give that to Am Yisrael. Maybe that's what it's all about. So thank you so much. And Rachel Chana is going to put up our contact information now. If you want to reach the panelists, if you want to reach Jewish women influencers, you can save that information onto your devices, and it'll have all of our information. So Rachel Chana, whenever you're ready, you can put that on the screen. Okay, there we have it, to reach our panelists and to contact Jewish women influencers. So thank you again to our panelists. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a wonderful night and feel safe and secure, and Mashiach is coming.
Thank you, Zohar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.